Hey loves, welcome or welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'll be making this top you see on the screen. And this video or this tutorial will be in two parts, and this is part one, which will be the drafting process, and part two will be the cutting and stitching process. So if this is something you would like to draft or make, then let's get right into today's video. I will begin by marking a horizontal line at the top of the paper. From there, I would mark my shoulder to bust measurement, which is 10 inches, my shoulder to under bust measurement, which is 13, and shoulder to waist, which is 16 and a half. And I want the waist to be my top length. So if you want the top to be longer, then you can extend the line from the shoulder, from the waistline. So I'll go in and square in my lines, which is the bust line, under bust line, and waistline. I will now label them. As you can see, this is my bust line, waistline, under bust line, waistline, and then my shoulder line. I will mark half of my shoulder measurement on the shoulder line, which is 7 inches, and then mark 3 inches on the 7 inches line. At the end of the 7 inches, I'll go down 1 inch and join it to the 3 inches mark. From there, I will mark my armhole depth from the shoulder drop, and that is my bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. And then from the center front, I would mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7 inches, and then connect those lines from the shoulder line to the armhole depth line, and then from the chest line, square a line across like this. Now what I'm going to do is to divide the armhole depth by 2 and then make a dot there, and from that point I'll go in 1 inch, then draw the armhole like you see, connecting the dot from the shoulder through the 1 inch and then down to the chest line. So what I'm going to do now is to just draw in the basic neckline. So I went down 3 inches and then connect it with a curve like you see. So what I'm going to do now is to mark my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8 inches divided by 2, so you can measure yours and see what you have. And then draw a vertical line through those dots like you see. And then from there, what I'm going to do now is to draw my bust circle, which is the measurement from my bust to under bust. So mine is 3 inches, and then I will mark it all round and then create a circle out of it. So now I have my bust circle, and what I'm going to do now is to create my dart. So on the nipple to nipple line, I'll go in 3/4 inch on both sides, and also on the under bust 3/4 inch on both sides, and then connect it with a line like this. And then I will use my curve to now connect a curved line from the bust point to the under bust line. So now what I'm going to do is to divide the shoulder in half and connect it with a line to the bust circle as you see. And then I would extend this side of the bust circle to the armhole. And then on the chest line at the center front, I will go down 1 inch and then mark 1 inch on both sides of the line dividing the shoulder. Now I will shape the neckline, connecting the mark on the shoulder to the 1 inch drop on the chest line with a curve, and also extend the other side of the shoulder to the armhole like this. So now I will mark my bust measurement divided by 4 plus stitching allowance on the chest line. So I added 1.5 stitching allowance, and then On the waistline, also quarter of my waist measurement plus the dart allowance, which is 1.5, plus stitching allowance, also 1.5 inches, and then connect those dots with a line. So now what I'm going to do for the neckline is to draw a straight line anywhere on the neckline to the bust point, and then create a dot with 1/2 inch on both sides, and this is going to help take away any excess fabric or gaping from the neckline. Now I'll go in 1/2 inch on the neckline and then connect it to the bust circle. From there, I will go in with my marker to emphasize all the pattern pieces needed for the front and then cut it out. So if you're wondering what I'll be doing to the dart I created at the neckline, stay tuned because I'll be working on that later. So now once everything has been outlined, I would go ahead and cut the pattern out. So this is the front pattern and it's not really finished yet because I have to work on the neckline. And what I'm going to do now is to create a grain line, and this will help me lay out the pattern on the fabric the right way. So from there, what I'm going to do is to use the front to create the back. So I will take an extra pattern paper and then lay the front pattern on top of it, and then I'll use my phone to support it so it doesn't move around. I'll then trace the side and then a little bit of the armhole, and then I would also trace the whole waistline. And then the center front, which will now act on the other paper as the side, the center back, and then also mark my dart point. So what I'm going to do now is to just create a curve at the back that will serve as the back neck depth. So with this one, you can go as deep as you want. It's a choice. So this is what I have now, and what I'm going to do now is to just mark my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 4, and then draw a straight line like this, which I'll be using to create my dart. So on the top like this, I'll go in 1/2 inch on both sides and then connect it to the waist, the dart point on the waist like that. So now I have the dart for the back. And for this top, I wouldn't be adding a zipper. I want to lace it, so I would take away 2 inches from the center back like you see I'm doing, and then draw the line like this and then add 1/2 inch allowance. So this is basically it for the back, and then I will close the dart like this because I don't want to be sewing the dart on the fabric. So once I close it on the brown paper like this, there's no need to sew a dart. So this is it, and then I will go in with my marker and emphasize all the places that I would be using or I would be cutting out. So the back pattern is really easy to create. So you can leave the dart out if you want to stitch it on the fabric. So now I'm going to separate the cap part of the top from the lower side, and then that will enable me to work on the neck contour or the dart we created at the neckline. So I'll add the allowance on this part on the fabric. I will label the center front and this side front. So now what I'm going to do is to slash through the center of the dart on the lower side and then close this dart. And then I will just hold it down with my adhesive tape. So I will just correct the neckline again and then cut out the excess. So what I'm going to do now is to just cut away the dots over there, and then that will give us the space for the gathering or the ruching you see at the underbust of this top. So once we create the goddess effect, you see that it will give it that bulginess the bust needs. So these are the patterns. This is the front patterns. This is the back pattern. And then I will later on add a strap for the back when I am stitching. So what I'm going to do now is to label the back pattern and then write how many pieces I'll be cutting for each piece. And actually I'll be cutting 4 pieces for all of the pattern pieces. That is 2 for the lining and then 2 for the fashion fabric. So I will see you in part 2, which is the cutting and stitching. See you soon. Bye.